The arrival. In the cold, endless void of space, the Galactic Empire held sway over countless star systems. Their dominance was unmatched, their technologies far superior, and their military might an impenetrable shield. The Empire had subjugated many species, crushing rebellions with swift, merciless efficiency. It was in this context of supreme authority and unquestioned power that they made what would become known as their greatest mistake. They challenged humanity. The Empire's supreme commander, Xilar, gazed out from his command bridge at the sprawling view of the galaxy. The ship, an imposing titan of steel and energy, floated within the core of a vast fleet. Xilar's reptilian eyes, cold and calculating, reflected the stars as he contemplated his next move. His orders were simple: bring Earth to its knees. The Empire had detected troubling reports from its scouts. A fledgling species, humans, were growing rapidly and spreading their influence. The reports were filled with tales of unexpected courage and resilience. "The humans are becoming a thorn in our side," Xilar growled, his voice resonating with the deep authority of his position. "They are spreading beyond their allotted sector and showing defiance." His advisors murmured in agreement, nodding to the gravity of the situation. To Xilar, the decision was clear. A demonstration of power was required, a full-scale invasion to make an example of Earth. At the heart of the Empire's fleet, the flagship, Eclipse of Order, moved into position. The Empire's strategy was precise. They would unleash their forces upon Earth, utilizing a devastating weapon that had never failed before. The people of Earth had no idea what was coming. On Earth, the skies over several major cities darkened as the first wave of Imperial ships appeared. The Galactic Empire's military might was vast. Massive destroyers and battle cruisers emerged from hyperspace, their weapons primed. Humanity was about to face its greatest challenge. News of the invasion spread rapidly. Governments scrambled to respond, and the military forces of Earth rallied. Despite the fear and chaos, there was an undeniable spirit of unity among the people. For every soldier and civilian, the question was the same: how could they face this seemingly unstoppable force? Dr. Evelyn Hayes, a renowned physicist and strategist, stood with a determined look in her eyes. She had been working on a revolutionary defense system for years, one that had yet to be fully tested. As the first Imperial attacks began, she knew it was time to unveil her work. The system was designed to harness Earth's natural electromagnetic fields and create a powerful defensive grid. The first skirmishes were fierce. The humans, though technologically inferior, fought with an unyielding spirit. Cities burned, but in the ashes of devastation, hope began to rise. The human response was unexpected. Instead of crumbling under the might of the Empire, they adapted, fought back, and found new ways to resist. Commander Xilar watched the reports from the front lines with growing frustration. The humans were proving to be a much tougher opponent than anticipated. His forces had underestimated their resolve. What had been meant as a swift, decisive conquest was turning into a protracted conflict. In one of the many command centers on Earth, Dr. Hayes watched as her defensive grid came online. The once bleak sky was now filled with a shimmering barrier that repelled the Empire's attacks. The humans were starting to push back. "This is not a simple rebellion," Dr. Hayes said to her team. "This is the birth of something extraordinary. We are not just fighting for survival, we are fighting for our right to exist." The first part of the story sets the stage for an epic conflict. The Galactic Empire, overconfident in their superiority, has made the critical mistake of challenging humanity. Earth's defenders are pushed to their limits, but their spirit and ingenuity begin to turn the tide. The stage is set for a battle that will reveal just how formidable humanity can be when faced with extinction. The turning tide. The battle raged on as Earth's resistance became more organized and strategic. The Empire, initially confident in their overwhelming strength, now faced a situation that defied their expectations. Human ingenuity and determination had transformed the seemingly impossible into a fierce struggle for survival. Commander Xula, observing from the command bridge of the Eclipse of Order, was growing increasingly agitated. The humans, once considered insignificant, were proving to be a formidable adversary. His fleet had suffered losses, and the invasion, which was supposed to be a show of dominance, was now a costly and protracted conflict. Why are they not falling? Sylar rode in frustration. We have overwhelmed their defenses with our superior technology. His lead strategist, Varric, approached with a datapad in hand. Supreme Commander, their resilience is more than we anticipated. They are utilizing unconventional tactics and adapting rapidly. Their new defensive grid is proving highly effective. Xela's eyes narrowed. Then we must adjust our approach, intensify the bombardment. We cannot allow these humans to outlast us. On Earth, Dr. Evelyn Hayes continued to work tirelessly on improving the defensive grid. The electromagnetic shield was holding, but the Empire's tactics were evolving. Earth's military forces, both regular and volunteer, were engaged in a desperate struggle to defend their world. The humans were united in their resistance, their determination hardened by the threat of annihilation. One of the key moments in this conflict came when a breakthrough was achieved. A group of scientists, led by Dr. Hayes, developed a countermeasure to the Empire's advanced weaponry, a technology that could disrupt the targeting systems of the Imperial ships. It was a risky maneuver, but it had the potential to shift the balance of power. Dr. Hayes, working late into the night, watched as her team tested the new technology. The initial results were promising. The countermeasures successfully scrambled the targeting systems of the Imperial cruisers, causing their attacks to miss their targets. This could be our chance, Dr. Hayes said, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. If we can integrate this technology into our defense network, we might be able to turn the tide. The countermeasure was deployed, and the effects were immediate. The Empire's bombardments became less accurate, and Earth's defenses began to push back more effectively. The once unyielding Imperial fleet was now facing a challenge they had not anticipated. Commander Xula was forced to reconsider his strategy. The Empire's superiority in firepower was being eroded by human innovation and resolve. The conflict was no longer a one-sided affair. It had become a genuine struggle for dominance. As the battles continued, the human resistance grew more coordinated. Earth's forces, bolstered by the new technology and driven by the will to survive, began to push back against the Imperial invaders. The once assured victory of the Galactic Empire was becoming increasingly elusive. In the midst of this struggle, a new kind of hero emerged, individuals whose bravery and resourcefulness inspired others to fight. Stories of daring raids and heroic defenses spread, uniting humanity in their cause. The realization dawned on the Empire that they had underestimated their opponents. The humans were not merely fighting for survival. They were fighting for their existence and proving to be a more resilient force than anticipated. The second part of the story highlights the turning point in the conflict. The Empire's overconfidence is met with unexpected resistance, and humanity's ingenuity and determination begin to shift the balance of power. As the tides turn, the Galactic Empire faces the consequences of their grave misjudgment. The heart of the storm, the battle for Earth, reached a critical juncture. The Galactic Empire's initial overconfidence had been replaced by a cautious realization of the human spirit's strength. The once overwhelming tide of Imperial forces was now being challenged by a determined resistance that refused to capitulate. Commander Xula's frustration reached its peak as his once dominant fleet was met with increasingly effective resistance. His strategic advisors were scrambling to adapt to the unexpected developments. The humans, driven by their survival instinct and newfound technology, had managed to push back against the Empire's offensive. In the midst of this turmoil, a key figure emerged from the human resistance: General Marcus Steele. Steele was a veteran soldier whose tactical acumen and leadership had become legendary among Earth's defenders. His strategies had turned the tide of several critical battles, and he had become a symbol of hope for humanity. General Steele's latest plan was daring. He proposed a high-risk mission to infiltrate the heart of the Imperial fleet and deliver a devastating blow to the Empire's command structure. The plan involved deploying a team of elite operatives to the Eclipse of Order, the flagship of Commander Xylar. Dr. Hayes and her team provided crucial support, equipping Steele's team with advanced technology that would enable them to breach the heavily fortified ship. The mission was fraught with danger, but the potential rewards were immense. If successful, it could cripple the Empire's ability to coordinate their attacks and shift the momentum of the war. As Steele's team embarked on their mission, they faced numerous challenges. The Eclipse of Order was a fortress of steel and energy, bristling with defenses that seemed insurmountable. However, the team's determination and the cutting-edge technology they carried gave them a fighting chance. The infiltration was a high-stakes endeavor. The team had to navigate through a labyrinth of corridors and security systems, evading detection and overcoming obstacles at every turn. The tension was palpable as they approached the command center of the flagship. Meanwhile, Commander Xylar was becoming increasingly concerned. The human resistance was not only enduring, but growing stronger. Reports of internal strife within his fleet and the escalating effectiveness of human countermeasures were raising alarms. In a moment of high tension, General Steele and his team reached the command center of the Eclipse of Order. The room was a sprawling expanse of holographic displays and control panels, filled with Imperial officers who were busy coordinating the fleet's operations. The human team moved stealthily, using advanced cloaking technology to remain undetected. They planted explosive charges on critical systems, aiming to cause maximum disruption. Commander Xylar, sensing the mounting pressure, ordered an escalation of attacks on Earth. His gaze remained fixed on the holographic projection of the battle, his claws tapping impatiently on the command console. He was determined to crush the human resistance once and for all. In a dramatic moment, the explosives detonated, sending shockwaves through the command center. Alarms blared as Imperial officers scrambled to contain the damage. General Steele and his team fought their way out, their mission accomplished, but not without significant losses. The sabotage had inflicted substantial damage on the flagship's command infrastructure, creating chaos and confusion within the Imperial fleet. The effects of the attack were immediate. The once cohesive Imperial fleet began to falter, with communication breakdowns and disarray spreading through the ranks. The human resistance seized the opportunity, launching a series of coordinated counterattacks that pushed the Empire's forces back. Earth's defenders, inspired by the successful sabotage and driven by their will to survive, fought with renewed vigor. Commander Xylar's frustration reached a boiling point as he witnessed the unraveling of his meticulously crafted campaign. His once imposing fleet was now struggling against the reinvigorated human forces. The situation was deteriorating rapidly, and the once unstoppable Empire was facing an unprecedented challenge. Amid the chaos, General Steele's team managed to escape, returning to Earth with critical intelligence about the Empire's operations and weaknesses. Their bravery and sacrifice had turned the tide of the war, giving humanity a fighting chance against the invaders. The intelligence gathered provided invaluable insights into the Empire's strategy and vulnerabilities, allowing Earth's military leaders to plan their next moves with greater precision. The human resistance, buoyed by their recent victories, began to launch a series of offensives against the Empire's remaining strongholds. The once dominant Galactic Empire was now on the defensive, struggling to maintain control over the territories it had once subjugated with ease. The third part of the story reveals the turning point in the conflict, as General Steele's daring mission disrupts the Empire's command structure. The ensuing chaos within the Imperial fleet gives humanity a chance to strike back, leading to a series of decisive victories. The Galactic Empire's overconfidence and miscalculations are exposed, and the tide of war begins to shift in favor of Earth's defenders. The Reckoning. As the conflict escalated, the Galactic Empire faced a growing crisis. The tide of war had turned against them, and their once imposing fleet was now reeling from the effects of the human resistance. Commander Xilar, faced with mounting losses and a crumbling campaign, realized the gravity of the mistake that had led them to this point. In the war rooms of the Imperial fleet, Xilar's face was a mask of frustration and anger. His once proud forces were now struggling to hold their ground against the tenacious human defenders. The Supreme Commander was surrounded by his top advisors, who offered little comfort as they reviewed the deteriorating situation. "This cannot continue," Xilar growled. "We must find a way to regain control. The humans are proving to be more resilient than anticipated." One of his advisors, a strategic analyst named Zalara, spoke up. "Supreme Commander, our current approach is failing. The humans have adapted to our tactics and have shown remarkable ingenuity. Perhaps we should consider a different strategy, one that addresses their strengths rather than confronting them head-on." Xilar's eyes narrowed as he considered the suggestion. "And what do you propose?" Zalara took a deep breath. "We should focus on undermining their morale and breaking their will to fight. We have advanced psychological and electronic warfare technologies that could be used to create divisions among their ranks and disrupt their unity." The plan was set into motion. The Empire deployed specialized units equipped with psychological and electronic warfare devices designed to create confusion and dissent within the human resistance. The goal was to exploit any cracks in the human alliance and force Earth's defenders into disarray. On Earth, the new wave of Imperial tactics began to take its toll. Reports of internal strife and discontent among the human ranks started to surface. The Empire's efforts to spread propaganda and misinformation created uncertainty and fear among the defenders. It seemed as though the Empire was regaining an advantage. General Marcus Steele, now a symbol of resistance, was deeply concerned. The unity and morale of the human forces were being tested in ways they had not anticipated. He gathered his top commanders and strategists to address the emerging crisis. "We knew this was coming," Steele said, addressing the assembled leaders. "The Empire is trying to exploit our weaknesses, but we cannot let them succeed. We must reinforce our unity and counter their psychological warfare. Our strength lies in our determination and solidarity." Dr. Evelyn Hayes, working alongside Steele, developed countermeasures to combat the Empire's psychological tactics. Her team worked around the clock to enhance communication security and counteract the Empire's attempts to sow discord. The human resistance, though challenged, began to rally and reaffirm their commitment to the fight. The pivotal moment came when Steele and his team successfully intercepted and decoded a critical transmission from the Empire. The transmission revealed the extent of the psychological warfare campaign and its objectives. With this knowledge, the human forces were able to launch a counteroffensive, targeting the Empire's psychological operations and neutralizing their impact. The human resistance began to recover its strength and unity. The tide of the war shifted once again as the Empire's psychological tactics were undermined. The Galactic Empire's efforts to break the human spirit had been met with resilience and determination, and the conflict entered a new phase. The fourth part of the story explores the Empire's attempt to undermine human morale through psychological warfare. The struggle to maintain unity and counteract the Empire's tactics becomes a critical challenge for Earth's defenders. Despite the efforts to exploit divisions, the human resistance demonstrates its resilience and unity, turning the tide once more in the battle for survival. The final stand. As the conflict reached its climax, the Galactic Empire faced the consequences of their grave miscalculation. The once unstoppable force that had sought to crush humanity was now on the brink of defeat. The final phase of the war would determine the fate of Earth and the Empire's future. Commander Xilar, now fully aware of the gravity of his error, prepared for a last-ditch effort to regain control. The Empire's remaining forces were concentrated in a final assault against Earth. Dalila's strategy was to deploy their most powerful weapon, a weapon of mass destruction capable of devastating the planet. On Earth, General Marcus Steele and Dr. Evelyn Hayes prepared for the impending confrontation. The human resistance was fortified and united, ready to face the ultimate challenge. The stakes were higher than ever, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. As the Empire's forces advanced, the final battle commenced. The skies were filled with the roar of spacecraft and the clash of energy beams. The human defenses, though battered, held firm. The new technologies and strategies developed over the course of the conflict were put to their ultimate test. General Steele led the charge, coordinating a series of daring attacks on the Empire's fleet. His leadership and tactical brilliance shone as he orchestrated a series of decisive maneuvers. Dr. Hayes, working in concert with the military, deployed advanced countermeasures to neutralize the Empire's most devastating weapon. In a dramatic climax, the Empire's weapon of mass destruction was deployed. The human forces, facing the imminent threat, executed a daring plan to disable the weapon before it could be activated. Steele and his team embarked on a high-risk mission to infiltrate the Empire's flagship and neutralize the weapon's control systems. The mission was perilous, with the team battling through intense defenses to reach their objective. The tension was palpable as they approached the weapon's control room. With time running out, Steele and his team fought their way through and succeeded in disabling the weapon, averting catastrophic destruction. The final battle raged on, and the Empire's forces, now demoralized and facing mounting losses, began to retreat. The tide of the conflict had turned decisively in favor of humanity. The Galactic Empire's once mighty fleet was shattered, and their ambitions of conquest were thwarted. In the aftermath of the battle, Commander Zillar faced the reality of defeat. The Galactic Empire's once unassailable power had been humbled by the resilience and ingenuity of humanity. The lessons learned from the conflict would resonate throughout the galaxy, a testament to the unforeseen strength of a species that refused to be conquered. Humanity's victory was hard-won, and the scars of war would remain. But the spirit of resilience and determination had prevailed. The Galactic Empire's greatest mistake had been their underestimation of humanity, a mistake that had cost them their dominance and reshaped the course of history. The fifth part of the story concludes with the final, decisive battle. The Galactic Empire's attempt to deploy a weapon of mass destruction is thwarted by the heroic efforts of Earth's defenders. The conflict ends with humanity's victory, and the once dominant empire is left to reckon with the consequences of their grave misjudgment. The story highlights the unforeseen strength of humanity and the profound impact of their resistance against overwhelming odds.